Alright guys, thanks so much for clicking on the video, I really appreciate it. This is going to kind of be an unreview of PopOS. So, I'm calling it an unreview because I'm not going to go through every nook and cranny, and there's going to be other companion videos for desktop environments such as GNOME 3, like what's running on PopOS here, and various other bits. So really, we're just going to stick with kind of the finer points of what makes PopOS different and unique, and some of the major points around why you'd want to give it a try over something like, say, Ubuntu. So, I guess we should start at the beginning. So, if I open up my browser here, go to system76.com, those are the folks who actually make PopOS. So PopOS is basically their take on Ubuntu 18.04 LTS and 18.10. So they actually offer both. They make some really rockin' hardware. This show's actually produced on an Orix Pro 3, so obviously I'm a little partial to System 76 hardware, but it's pretty awesome. They also launched this Thelio brand of desktops. It's pretty amazing. You should take a look. This is not a sponsored spot or anything like that. They just make some really awesome hardware. So, anyway, since we're looking at their site a little bit, let's hop over to the PopOS page. So, this is everything at a high level around PopOS. So you'll notice there's two different download buttons. There's a download and a download LTS. So download, notice, is 1810, and they're very specific about that. NVIDIA just means the NVIDIA driver will be pre-installed for you, which is kind of awesome. Intel AMD is if you don't have an NVIDIA GPU. That's pretty much as simple as you can make that. So if you click on the LTS, that's actually what I'm running on my production rig right now. So again, LTS, 5 years of support. Recently, Canonical mentioned that they were actually going to give 10 years of support for 18.04. Now, I'm not sure that Pop's necessarily going to commit to 10 years of support, but I would expect at a minimum 5 years of support for the LTS. And there's actually some really good documentation on their site. It's quite useful, especially if you want to find out how to upgrade between versions. Say if you want to go from 18.04 to 18.10, and that'll likely be covered in another video, but for now, just know that there is a way to upgrade between versions. If you go more than two versions, so if you went from, say, 18.04 to 19.04 when that comes out this April, you would have to be on 18.10 to get to 19.04. There's not a path that I'm aware of to go straight from 18.04 to 19.04. You'd have to do a clean install to do that. Anyways, so enough about that. So if we scroll down here just briefly, this is one of their mascots named Zoe. She's pretty awesome. Anyways, as you're scrolling down here, talks a little bit about workflow, shows off some of GNOME 3's finer points, window snapping, workspaces. Again, I'm not going to go too deep into GNOME 3 itself since, again, that's going to be a companion video and things of the like. So, what are some things that make PopOS something you'd want to take a look at? So, as we mentioned already, it's based on Ubuntu 18.04 and 18.10. That means you're going to get a ton of packages. It's one of the largest repositories, so pretty close to anything under the sun is likely going to be in the repositories or be in a PPA that you're going to be able to add. It's just really, really, really handy. So if we go to, let's see. So these were some of the docs I was talking about earlier. So there's a myriad of docs here showing you how to dual boot, how to dual boot Windows, if you don't want to take the plunge, how do you install the Pop theme, roadmap for upcoming features, how to set up disk encryption. There's also even more than this on this site. So that's enough of that. So popping out here, if we take a quick look, so this is kind of that overview that we were looking at again. It kind of reminds me of macOS Mission Control a little bit if you've ever used a Mac or you're new to Linux. So that might really turn some people on. Notice over here there's a couple desktop, virtual desktops, which is kind of awesome. We can switch between. So if we pop out of there, and just so you know, I'm just hitting the super key. That's what's bringing that up. So if I hit the super key and hit A, now I'm bringing up my applications. So this almost kind of reminds me of scrolling through almost like a smartphone, if you think about it, right? So, huge oversized icons. GNOME actually is a pretty good touch environment as well. The upcoming Purism 5 phone is actually going to be running GNOME by default, if I'm not mistaken, though it will support other desktop environments. But the reason I'm bringing that up is it's, definitely has a very touch-optimized interface. So just kind of scrolling through some basic stuff here. Now, obviously, I've added a few things since this is actually on bare metal on my production rig. But one of the things that you won't get by default is the Synaptic Package Manager, which you could actually get through something called the Pop Shop. So the Pop Shop is basically collaboration between Elementary OS and System 76. And it's meant to be really a point-and-click interface for you to go find things you want and try and make it as simple as possible. So, for instance, Steam's right here, right? Spotify. Things that can be a little bit annoying to install, not Steam, more Spotify. But they try and make it, one-click installs, make it really simple for you. So if you're a bit more of a power user, though, you may want to go ahead and install the Synaptic Package Manager. So when you think Ubuntu, this is kind of the package manager that's been around forever. So if you're looking for a specific package or library and you're very specific about what you need and what you need, you would be likely installing this. So it's unfortunate you might require two different software centers, if you will. It's unfortunate that there isn't some form of melding between the two, but that's not to disparage PopOS or anything like that. That's more of just the underpinnings of Ubuntu and the way that things are today. So, but that said, the Pop Shop here is actually one of the nicest app centers I've seen, honestly, across different distros. It's very, very simple. It's very intuitive. Again, you're going to get screenshots. You're going to get some descriptions. You can even, hop over the homepage, report problems right here. It really is intuitive. So so that's Pop Shop in a nutshell. So one of the things that isn't installed by default that I really think should come by default on pretty much any Ubuntu-based distribution, in my opinion, is GNOME tweaks, especially if GNOME is the default. So why do I say that? I say that because right from here, I can change the theme of pretty much my entire desktop pretty much at will, which is kind of awesome. So I can change how my apps look, my cursor icons, how the shell itself looks. Now, something to note, if you guys install Pop, so by default, you're actually not going to be able to select something here. And the reason that is, if we hop over to GNOME extensions, I had to add user themes. This is not installed by default. What this does, though, is it allows you to load shell themes from a user directory. So once this is installed, you'd hop back over here, and now this would be selectable with all these options. Just something to keep in mind. And again, I personally like turning off animations. I think it's just a smoother experience without them. But again, this is a very slimmed down, faster, snappier version of Ubuntu, in my opinion. I think they have a great looking theme out of the box. Some beautiful backgrounds. This is actually one of the backgrounds that comes with the distribution. It's kind of beautiful. So let's pull up System Auditor. So I'm running OBS and a few other things, obviously, right now recording this. But let's just take a look at what I'm sitting at. I'm sitting at about 2.7 gigs. That's actually not too bad, if I'm being honest. Now, GNOME is obviously a heavier distribution compared to, say, like LXD or Mate or something of the like that's much, much, much lighter. But again, 2.7 gigs, really not that bad considering I'm recording a video and doing a whole bunch of other stuff right now. So, in any event. So if we get out of that and hop back over here. Again, there's just tons of documentation. It's very snappy. It's really nice. You'll also notice that I've customized a couple other things. So you'll notice that there's kind of the dock over here. It's transparent, a few other little things. Again, that can all be done here through extensions, dash to dock. And that's where most of the settings and the like to control how this functions and how that's going to look. So, in addition to being a nice slim down, when I say slim down, not a bunch of bloatware and things like that installed out of the box, you also get night light, which is really nice. So it just warms up the tones with a yellow as it gets deeper into the evening, so preventing blue light strain on your eyes, which is really nice. You'll also notice that there are performance profiles for batteries. So obviously I mentioned I have an Oryx Pro 3, that's what I'm recording this on, and there's a high performance, a balance, and a battery life. So even though this is a fairly power hungry device, I now, with a click of a button, can go in and, say, I need all of the horsepower. I can, live in a balanced way, or I need all of the battery all of the time. But this is something to call out for PopOS because not every distribution has this. And this is out of the box. And that's really nice. So one other thing I can't show easily here as well is if you have multiple GPUs. So I mentioned earlier that this is the NVIDIA version. I have the NVIDIA version installed because I have an NVIDIA GPU. If you would have both, so I actually have a work machine that has two GPUs. If you would have an Intel, say, GPU and an NVIDIA GPU, right here, there would actually be an option for you to switch between that Intel or NVIDIA GPU with a click of a button and a restart. So it's not completely seamless because you still have to restart, but again, something else to call out because again, not every distribution has that out of the box. These are some super nice features that really should be highlighted for this distribution. So if you require multi-GPU support, this is a great distribution to kick the tires on, honestly. If you care about those power profiles, again, this is a fantastic distribution that out of the box gives you some really nice feature that a lot of distributions don't. Or you would have to do a significant amount of work to try and get a similar effect. So, in any event, that's pretty much it in the nutshell. I am not going to belabor this. This is not going to be a super long video. Again, this is an unreview. I'm not going to sit here and click every single solitary button and go through it. There's a million and one folks out there that probably will. Now that said, I will bring up the website, so shikmo.io. We have a new cool logo up here in the top. Down at the bottom of the page, if you want to drop me an email, find me on Twitter, look up the YouTube page, drop a few bucks digitally into my tip jar over Patreon. This is where you go and do it. So again, it's just shikmo.io. But that's it, guys. Hopefully that was useful to you guys. If you like this kind of video and this kind of content, please let me know. I can happily do more not talking head videos like this on whatever distributions you're most interested in seeing. I have at least a few more lined up in the near future because April 26th through the 28th, I'll be at Linux Fest Northwest. And one of my talks kind of centers around some of these distributions. So between now and then, you're probably going to see at a minimum the distributions I'm going to cover in our Choose Your Own Adventure talk, where I'm not going to know what I'm talking about until you guys show up and make a couple decisions. So for some of the older folks in the audience, think of Zork, but lots of Linux, and you guys are in control of absolutely everything. So again, thank you so much for clicking on the video. Hope this was helpful. If you have any questions, please reach out to me via email or Twitter. And I hope you guys have a great day. Thanks so much. I've been Shikmo, and I'll see you in the next one.